Rainy day. Perfect time to be in the shop doing some work. This belongs to a neighbor guy. He brought it over, wanted me to check it out for him. He says that it's getting to where it's very hard to crank the motor over. It's a Craftsman T2500 and it has the 19 horse Briggs motor. I'll set this up here and so you can see what's going on. Oh, maybe you can see. Anyway, when you try to crank it, this is what's doing it. Just does not want to get past the compression stroke. So more than likely it's just because the valves need to be readjusted. And I'm also going to check the starter, make sure all the connections are clean and tight, which they kind of look kind of oily. And I'll check the ground and we'll see if we can get what we can fix here. First of all, this hood needs to come off out of the way so that I can have a lot more room to get to the valve cover. So let's get that removed. See the we'll set that over here. And now we can get to the valves. Let's set this right here. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is take the spark plug out so that I can turn it over by hand to be able to get it on the compression stroke. And then I'll bring it back. Got the spark plug out. You can see it pretty good here. That does not look to be very good shape. Gonna definitely have to re-gap this thing. I'm surprised it was even running. Alright, there's that. Next thing, I'll get the valve cover removed. Leaking all over the muffler. Then that'll be an oily mess once it starts. Alright, now I can crank the engine over by hand to get to top dead center, which I just use a screwdriver, stick in the spark plug hole. And the piston is moving up. And when you get it up there, make sure your valves are not moving, because if they're moving, then you got to spin it some more and use the screwdriver to get it on top dead center. And then you want it to go past about 1/4 of an inch. About right there. And now you can adjust the valves. Which on this one, The intake is 0.0003 to 0.005, which we'll put it at 0.003. And to know which one it is, this is their exhaust pipe. It's going to the top, so the exhaust is the top valve, intake is the bottom valve. And you just got 0.003, put it in, and that's way too much clearance. The bottom, or the exhaust, is 0.005 to 0.007. This is 0.005. And the exhaust is a little bit loose also. Put the feeler gauge in. You want to tighten it to where you feel some drag. About right there. Then 0.005 for the exhaust. Same thing. You want to be careful you don't hit the rocker arm with your wrench while you're doing this, because that'll give you a false reading. Right there. Usually doesn't take much. And then you just tighten up the center. And then double check it after you tighten that back up. 0.003 for the intake and 0.005 for the exhaust. Which that looks pretty good. So let's get the cover cleaned up and we'll get that put back on. And then I'll bring you back. Got some sealant on here. Since this is what it was from the factory and not a gasket, I just put this back on. Take my bolts. Back in, put the cap back on it, or the plug back on it, or whatever you want to call it. Let's try firing it up and see what it does. See if I did any good. Alrighty, carrying on. I did not realize the camera battery had died, and I filmed removing the engine, and this wasn't even recording. So now we'll carry it back on. As you can see, I got the motor removed. Actually, it's pretty easy, not much to it. You just got you can leave the muffler still there. All you have to do is take the head pipe off, because that just slides into it. No big deal. You just take the cable off of the starter. You unplug the wiring harness right here. That's the only thing you have to undo that. You undo the fuel line, and there's a little vent for the gas tank. Unhook those. Unhook your throttle cable. You take the pulley off of the bottom, and then you just got 4 bolts, and then the motor comes right off. Plain and simple. And once you get the, of course you want to drain the oil. And once you get it on the workbench, you flip the motor upside down, because you got to take that cover off, and you got these little bolts all the way around. Pretty easy. When you pull this cover off, this little pin right here, let me grab a pair of pliers and I'll show you what it is. It's shaped like that. It's got the grooves on both ends. One end fits inside your camshaft, and the other end slides right down here into the oil pump. When you take this cover off, this might fall out. If it does, that's where this goes. Of course, you got your pan. You'll have to scrape off the old gasket to put a new one on. This is the governor arm on there. You'll have to take this off. And then right here is your camshaft, which if you notice, it's got a dot right there, and if you look on the crank, it's also got a dot. You want to make sure those are lined up, and then you can just pull the camshaft right out. And here is the reason why this motor did not want to keep cranking over. As you can see, the little decompression lever has broke off and it just got destroyed. Here's the spring for it. That lever, let me get this spin around here. That lever is attached into this hole, and it works off of the intake valve. And because that lever was not attached anymore, whenever the engine went to compression, it would stop because the starter wasn't strong enough to crank it past. And that's the reason why. The only way you can fix this is to buy a new camshaft, because as far as I know, you cannot buy just the little lever. You have to get the camshaft and the lever, which I found one on eBay brand new for 30 bucks. It's going to be getting shipped here, be here in a couple days. And then once I get the new camshaft, I can get this put back in, and I'll film doing all that along with the new gasket. And then I'll get the motor put back on the lawnmower and get this thing back fired up and running. And alright, we got the new camshaft in. Let's get it open and here's the new lifters, or tappets, or whatever you want to call them. Here's the cam. With the decompression lever. Perfect. It's all ready to put in here. Dog's barking. Get the old one removed. It's stuck in there now. Get the old one pulled out. And we'll get ready to put the new one in. Here's the old lifter and the other old lifter. Get the new ones. Double check to make sure they're the same. Yep. Oh, let's see, where's my lube? Use my assembly lube on this stuff. This is some good stuff. Put some on the ends. Perfect. Same with this. Some here on the bearing or the brace. I'll put some on the roller area. Line up the dots. Got the two dots lined up right there. All right. Can't forget the governor. Might want to get some stuff on that too. Can't forget to put the governor on. I'm going to squirt some oil on here. Right on. Alright, we got a new base gasket. At least it better be. What the heck? Hold it. There we go. Oh yeah. Let's get this put on. let's see. It goes this way. That goes there, that goes there. Perfect. Let's get the bolts on. Got some thread locker. Put some of the blue on. Wrench. I think it was a 1/2 inch. Yep. Anyway, you get the idea. This might be a while. Okay, I got the bolts all tightened down. Now let's get the oil pump put back together. Got the little pin that goes in. That lines up with the camshaft. And that lines up with that. Got your plate. It's got an O-ring there to seal it, so all you got to do is put this on and line your bolt holes up. There's 3 of them. Put a little thread locker on them too. There's that. I guess I could go ahead and put the new oil filter on while it's here. I found this at Walmart for like $9.30 something. Exact replacement. Smear a little oil on the O-ring, or not the O-ring, but the gasket. Make sure that's clean. Give her a twist. Something about like that. Alright. Well, this is ready to get set back on the mower. Let's go do that. I'm glad these things don't weigh much. Don't get lost, B. all you gotta do is get the belt around the pulley. Kind of get the holes lined up, and we'll get the 4 bolts in the bottom of it. Let's get the electrical hooked up. That. That closed. Now we'll get the BO lines hooked up with the throttle cable. Get the 5/16. See, that's all the way closed. That's all the way closed. Throttle. Yeah, that works. Alright. This here is the vent line. It plugs in up there on the intake thingy. Of course, you got your gas line. It plugs into the inlet on the carb. And you got your thing clamp. There's that. Now what we're going to do, we're going to recheck the valves, and before we start it, and we got the oil in it. All right, got it all back on, full of oil. Oil filter's on. Let's see if it'll start and run. Oops, drop seat. idling nice and smooth. Got a little bit of smoke coming off the exhaust, but that's because the oil dripped down on it. It's going to be like that until it burns off. I don't see any oil leaking anywhere. Perfect, that's what we want. That's what we want. This thing was just have 2 little bolts holding it on, which are 10 millimeters. Yep. Let me get my long extension. Side covers on. Let's see. This was on this end. Supposed to go down a little bit farther. Oh, that's not. It still has this clip that's stuck in the side. There, now. That side. There's that side. Hold the pin. Come on, you're supposed to fit in there. There we go. This is for the deck. That's what turns it on and off. It's just the thingamajiggy. Now we go take it for a drive around the yard. Might as well. Look at that, fires right out. Right on.